Hey everybody, it's MommaOG. I am back with another reaction. Today I am listening to Angine de Poitrine, Sarniezz, I believe is how it's pronounced, or pretty darn close. I hope I got their name a little more correct than I did in the last two reactions. I always feel a little trepidation coming into these. I'm still getting reamed in comments about the first reaction that I did to Fabianque, where I expressed the situation about the anxiety surrounding. I felt it was important context in order to do an honest reaction to that song and to this group. So I just hope people in the future will keep that in mind. There's a lot of context in what I share, and I tend to give more information than less because I want to be completely honest and completely upfront. Anyhow, I also feel a little bit of trepidation coming into these because this music is way over my head, technically. Yet, having said that, I am still singing the little opening guitar riff to Fabianque. I find myself doing it almost subconsciously. I'm doing something around the house and all of a sudden I'll be like, beep, 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 and I'll catch myself. As I said in my last reaction to Sherpa, they have got their hooks in me for sure, for many reasons that I did talk about. And we'll probably talk about again here. But I'm finding that this group makes me talk more than any other group that I've reacted to. Okay, before we get started, if you would like to request a specific reaction, you can do so by clicking a donation link down in the description. Send along the information of the song you want me to react to, and I will add it to my list. I also take notes during my reactions, so if I'm looking down here and there, it's writing down stuff so that I remember what I want to talk about. Although I can never promise that I won't pause the song a few times, especially with this group. I've got my earbuds in. Let's go ahead and get started. I have no idea what to expect, as usual.
Apprécie les avantages qu'apporte ce mode de construction. Par exemple, son confort thermique. La maison reste fraîche en été et garde la chaleur l'hiver.
I always hear a hi-hat at the beginning. This is the third video. I hear a hi-hat. Close. And I don't know if that's them or part of that intro, but I just thought I'd note that.
Porte ce mode de construction. Par exemple, son confort thermique. La maison reste fraîche.
I'm hearing a little bit of other drum.
La chaleur l'hiver.
Right there. Bass and drums right from the gate. Love it. Okay, it was feeling like a time signature that I could predict and move to. And I was about to start counting and then they changed it up. So I'm just going to rewind it a little bit, see if I can count the counts. Now, just a little bit of background information. I don't know the technical counting for time signatures. You know, I know 4/4. I know what that is. I just don't know how to interpret all the other ones. But on my other channel, I put together first time reaction compilations. So part of the process of doing that is dissecting songs that I do. So I literally have to dissect them by count. And that's how I divide up the song. I'll show one reactor during a 4 count. Then the next 4 count will be a different reactor. Or I'll show one reactor for an 8 count and then transition over a 4 count. It's hard to explain, but I count beats to each section. I just have a little bit different of a system in determining time signatures, even though I couldn't tell you what they are, if they're something other than 4/4. So there's that. This part is really groovy. This sounds like 4/4. Yeah, I think that might be 4/4. I know that's going to change. It's just, I'm sorry to pause it again. It's so amazing to me how off that sounds, but how well it works. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get over that. It's just crazy. Those notes that he's playing, they, it almost sounds like his guitar's out of tune, but it sounds amazing. I don't know, for some reason, usually I'd be like, that kind of just, it's like nails on chalkboard sometimes. But in this context, those odd notes are working for me anyway. Just really strange feeling. Sorry. Fuck. So they took that one riff that I was talking about and stripped all the other underlayers preceding that, and now they're changing it into something else. This is crazy. I'm going to try not to pause it too much more. Yeah. Definitely not 4/4 anymore, I don't think. It feels a little disconcerting. Okay. What's he doing with his tootsies? Mm. There's definitely a recognizable melody to this whole song. Wow.
Discover new music at listener-powered KEXP.org.
That ending kind of made me feel like, I don't know how to explain this. It didn't feel like it should end there. Maybe I didn't want it to. I don't know. But that was a strange phenomenon at the end there. Okay. Of course, I made a lot of notes. This one was high energy, hypnotic even. Before I knew it, the song was over. I was trying to focus on so many different things, but I still have to use the adjective chaotic, a little disorienting in certain spots, but not in a bad way. This stuff is a little chaotic to those of us who are not knowledgeable about microtones and math rock. Like applying math to music just makes me want to quit. I mean, I'm just like, no, I don't want to talk about that. I don't know how to explain it. It just instantly blows the top of my head off to think about trying to figure that out. That one was also, seemed to be a lot heavier, very groovy. The very beginning of it was very groovy. And I noticed with the chaotic and disorientation, there are these small rhythmic shifts. And then the continued groove of that is like what kept me hooked on it. And I think those things are what make the chaos and the disorientation welcoming almost. It's hard to explain because I never imagined I'd be saying such things about chaos and disorientation. Something that I've seen it in the other two songs, and of course these two have to be completely locked in with each other. That's obvious. But I think I noticed that a little bit more with this song. The synchronization between the two of them is astounding. In this particular case, it was almost a part of the experience. It was like watching a well-oiled machine. You know, all the little deep, intricate parts, like taking the cover off of it and seeing all the little intricate parts that make the whole thing work. It was part of the experience. Again, Kleck, I believe his name is, the drummer. The guitarist goes by Kin. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Of course, he's doing all this stuff on the guitar and the bass and with the pedals and the looping and the volumes and the different sound effects that he's doing with his little tootsies down there. But Kleck is like the backbone of what they're doing. I try to pay a little bit more attention to him. This time, he does all these amazing little fills in between, and that's kind of like indicative of a change, just something that stood out to me in this particular song. I know it was there in the other two. I just wasn't focused on it as much as I was here. I was kind of watching Kin, I think his name is, a little bit more than the drummer. So in Sherpa, at the end, I had asked, like, has anybody ever counted how many layers that these guys do? And I was shocked to find out that the looper does about 5 or 6 different layers, and that's it. I was shocked to read that because it seemed like there was probably 20 or 25 throughout that whole song, not all at the same time. And that's the key, I think, because in this song, I noticed they do a couple of different layers of bass and the guitar, and then they'll take one of the layers from that previous section, use it in a new section, and do other things on top of that, which is just also, when I think about how they figured out how to do this or how they perfected this, just makes the top of my head want to blow off. You know, I find myself wanting to groove and physically move, and I'm always scared that, you know, because of the strange time signatures and the rhythms and, you know, when they shift, I'm going to be bopping still and there's not going to be anything playing. It reminds me of, I did a first time reaction compilation to a song by Tool called The Pot, one of my all-time favorite songs by Tool. But they do have some weird time signatures in that. Tool often does. I've listened to that song 1,000 times. And once I decided to do it as a compilation, I had to dissect the song. So I had to count, you know, and figure out these breaks and these kind of time signatures so that I could know when to go from one reactor to another. And I get to know these songs intimately when I break them down like that. It was an incredibly fun compilation to put together because, you know, I watch hundreds of reactions to a particular song, maybe 100, maybe a little less. It just depends on the song. But I watch a lot of people listen to these songs for the first time, and it was always so much fun to watch them bopping along in their seat, and then it, you know, it's not quite your usual time signature, so it throws them off, and you can literally see it wash over their face. So I am kind of thinking about that with this group, knowing that I'm going to be bopping along and grooving, and all of a sudden things are going to change and I'm going to look like an idiot still doing the same movement when there's something else completely different going on. That was incredible, of course. Just so different for my personal experience with music in my life. Never heard anything like this. It's a fresh, nice change of pace. I hear a lot of comments about how people are saying that modern music is nothing compared to what I grew up with, like in the 70s and maybe even the 80s, even the 60s. And no, you know, you can't really compare today's music to back then. That was a revolutionary time in music. I think that's just what happens. Music evolves. It changes over time. And some people complain that there are no actual, you know, no artists out there these days with actual talent. And, you know, that's true to a certain extent. There's a lot of commercialized music, and God forbid, we're starting to see AI music, which I just find extremely disturbing. That's a whole nother video. But there are current musicians that are special, that are doing things differently. Jacob Collier is one of them. I just saw one of his thumbnails over here. Jacob Collier is doing things incredibly differently, and he is an absolute genius at what he does. And I would have to say this group is definitely doing things differently compared to what I have experience with. And the reason I say it's, you know, different for me, I see some people in comments saying this stuff like this isn't new, and then they name these bands that were kind of similar to this. None of these bands I have experience with, so those might be other rabbit holes for me to go down. But coupled with the outfits and the attitude of this group, I don't think there's anything like them out there. right now. That's just my personal opinion. Another mind-bending song. That was awesome. Thank you so much for being here to share this with me. I will see you on the next one.
Or uncontrolled muscle movements, which may be permanent. High blood sugar can lead to coma or death. Weight gain, increased cholesterol, unusual urges, dizziness on standing, falls, seizures, trouble swallowing.
Oh, come here. That's a good boy. Got that one on video.